I wanted to ask you about the outlook in the US as well, because Donald Trump has promised a regulatory bonfire of sorts if he wins the election this week. He wants to cut back the Inflation Reduction Act, he wants to pull out of the Paris Agreement, and he wants to unleash American energy. What do you think that's going to mean for the industry?
In fact, to be honest, the industry, energy, US energy, has been unleashed. In fact, when you look to what happened since the last 2-3 years, the production of oil has never been so high. It's by far, the revolution of the US shale is really taking place. Number one in oil production in the world, by far. US are becoming the number one in LNG production very soon. So, in fact, it's unleashed already. And so, good, I think there is part of political rhetoric, and my view is that whoever the camp is, in fact, energy is really one of the big competitive advantage for the US. And whoever will win, US first, I would say. So then, a little less regulatory, a little more. What I think from a pure climate point of view, the environmental matters like methane regulations are good, because we are today, methane represents 4 billion tons of CO2, and our industry has a way to put that out. And so we should do it. It's not a matter of cost. It does not impair the cost of energy. So my view is that we should be... and in fact, the US industry has evolved in the right direction. So it's not only a matter of power, of geopolitical power. I think things are good, and the US revolution, shale revolution, has taken place. It's a big advantage for US, and they have all the capacity to also contribute to the climate fight within the US industry.
You've also warned against a Wild West approach when it comes to regulation in the US. What specifically did you mean by that?
I mean that, in fact, today in the US, when you look to the different companies, you have the large companies, my colleagues, my major companies, which in fact have integrated themselves, all of these regulations, into their normal way to work. And then you have some smaller independent company who are less keen to obey to these regulations, but in fact that's why I call the Wild West, So I'm sure that the interest of the US energy, US oil and gas industry is, again, they are the leader in the world. They are the highest production of oil, the highest production of gas, cheapest gas in the planet. So they can integrate this type of, it's not environmental constraints, it's just an environmental opportunity to work for everybody. So that's, I think, the Wild West. That was the beginning of the shale story, 15 years ago. In 15 years, everything has changed, and today this industry, shale industry, is able to produce shale oil, shale gas, by, again, taking into account all these constraints on the environment. So it would be a lost opportunity not to maintain this discipline. And again, I trust the major companies in the US to advocate in the right direction.
Flip the coin, though. Do you think a President Kamala Harris would be good for fossil fuel, the energy industry, and the energy transition?
I think, I'm just listening. I'm not an expert, but Kamala Harris has declared that she's supportive of shale oil fracking and or shale gas. So I think it's part of the game. Again, for me, today the US have a clear competitive advantage on the energy compared to the rest of the world. So I would be surprised to see whoever is elected to lose the competitive advantage. And in fact, when we observe what happened during the last 4 years, Democrats, yes, have maybe less restrictive on some opening some acreage, but at the same time they approved a project from Alaska. So it's more balanced than we think. And my view is that, again, USA first, whoever will be president.